Hello everyone and welcome to another game between Dimaga and DuckloadRa here on Blistering Sands. Or this time on Blistering Sands, DuckloadRa spawning as the blue Protoss player on the top right hand side of the map. Meanwhile, Dimaga spawning as the yellow Zerg player on the bottom left hand side of the map. So Zerg versus Protoss here on Blistering Sands. I believe that Zerg has a little bit of an advantage here, but DuckloadRa may try to go for a 4-gate, and 4-gates are actually very strong on this map as well. I am interested to see how this particular game will play out. This is the third game in the series that I've been casting between these two players, and I've seen a lot of different playstyles and a lot of different strategies, and I'm curious as to how these two professional players from Europe will be playing on Blistering Sands. And taking a look at DuckloadRa not doing anything too out of the ordinary, setting up a 9 pylon. Meanwhile, we see Dimaga who went for, I believe that was a 9 Overlord. Yeah, 9 Overlord based upon the timing, to now just continuing to build more drones and try to get a strong economy. Blistering Sands is a rather large map, so you can get away with trying to go for an early hatchery as long as your opponent doesn't try to do any proxy 10 racks builds. A proxy 10 racks is probably the worst possible thing that a Zerg player could see when they're trying to go for a fast expansion. But no, Dimaga once again going for an extractor first. So an extractor followed by spawning pool, and then he will be able to open up, get a lot of Zerglings with metabolic boost, perhaps pull those drones off of the extractor for some time, and then use metabolic boosted lings as a very, very superior army tactic, as 4 Zerglings can normally take down or easily take down a Zealot if microed correctly, and 4 Zerglings can definitely take down a Stalker as well. And back over here, we can see what 1 Overlord here, 1 Overlord here. More Overlords are being trained. Taking a look at the current gas, Dimaga sitting at 60 gas right now, and he should be getting the metabolic boost the instant he has 100 gas. And then it's just time will tell whether or not he tries to pull away with this one particular extractor. Now back over here, we can see this one probe just wandering around back and forth, looking around for something to like snipe or do a little bit of damage, but it doesn't look like he's going to be dealing much at all. Dimaga got his 100 gas already, decides to not get any more, and now Dimaga just running off of what I believe is 15 harvesters, and that is it, compared to the 19 that currently DuckloadRa has. So DuckloadRa, very, very strong in terms of his economy right now. He's able to mine gas and still have a stronger mineral collection rate at this stage in the game. So yeah, 660, and he's also getting gas as well. 1 probe now making its way out in order to set up a another gateway. So a second gateway, Cybernetic Core is already set up. Based upon my timing, I had forgotten that was already there. We can see that the warp gate research is currently coming in, and now a gateway, 2 gateways will be able to warp in a lot of units, and now we see Dimaga going into that hatchery. So that hatchery here instead, and by pulling off those drones off of gas, he's able to get more minerals, and by getting more minerals, he was able to set up that hatchery very, very easily. Now we can see a queen perhaps is going to try to lay down either a creep tumor or a spawn larva. Wait for it. Yeah, it's going to be another spawn larva, just trying to stay on top of his macro. Getting an additional 4 larvae every minute is essentially more than doubling the capacity of Zerg with a queen, or a hatchery with a queen than a hatchery without. 1 Zergling, 2 Zerglings. I'm going to try to poke and deal some damage, and oh, down it goes. But I believe that, let me take a look. DuckloadRa, yes, DuckloadRa did in fact see that there is a hatchery there. The hatchery nearing completion already, will be up and running in just mere moments. Still a little curious as to how these players are, what they're going to be doing. We can see more heavy production coming in from Dimaga. Dimaga opting to go for mass drones in order to just power drone, trying to get a stronger economy going, and now finally takes the lead in the economic run, having 26 harvesters compared to the 21 harvesters of DuckloadRa. DuckloadRa is not training any units off of his Nexus. So this is going to be a 4-gate push, and we are only a mere 6 minutes into this game. The army is rather large, 875 versus 150. 1 probe should be in that group. Going to set up a pylon here. Is what Stalker now going to get in position as well. Try to get some damage, and now try to take down some of those roaches as well, or at least deal some damage towards those roaches. Stalker's now fighting back and forth, and will he be able to deal enough damage? Zealots now coming in as well. Roaches coming down the ramp. Both sides have very, very decent sized armies, and more units need to come in here and join in on a second. Zerglings now coming in the swarm. Zealots will be able to come back and reinforce. One Zealot, however, venturing a little bit too far and now trying to fight back. Dimaga on the push, trying to fight back against the rest of these Zerglings. I believe this one pylon still is going to stay in play, not taking any critical damage whatsoever. And now things are not looking good at all for Dimaga. Dimaga doesn't have any stationary defense, and any deployed units can deploy straight to the battlefield. Down goes a queen, hurting Dimaga's production even further. A Zealot now trying to join back in, but there's a lot of Stalkers, and those Stalkers have decent range. Zealots now trying to come back in once again. Whether they're going to be able to focus off any of those lower hit point roaches doesn't look like it. Just trying to rally the damage as quickly as possible. Those roaches do not have movement speed upgrades, just fighting on creep, and that's the only benefit they have right now. And now I believe those 3 roaches will get shot down in just a second, but there are a lot of Zerglings. More Zealots will be joining in on this fight once again. Zealots now coming in. The Stalkers now need to poke off those roaches. Another roach gets taken down, and now Dimaga at 525 compared to 700 as more Zealots are once again being warped in. I believe one Spine Crawler will get cancelled in just a second. No, not cancelled, as it as at 4750 hit points. Stalkers continuing to fight, trying to figure out what exactly they can do. This one Spine Crawler very low on hit points already, and now able to just regenerate more over time. So nicely done by Dimaga. Dimaga holding off this attack so far, and he's doing fairly well in holding off this attack, but is it enough to win him the game? That is going to be the critical issue. That one Spine Crawler just out of combat range. He doesn't want to unroot it, as it takes, I believe, 12 seconds to reroot a Spine Crawler once it has unrooted. And in that time, the Stalkers can easily shoot it down before that Spine Crawler does any serious damage whatsoever. Harvester count 24 compared to 21. So Dimaga is a little bit ahead once again. Zerglings now trying to swarm in, and now back go many of those sentries. So sentries, Stalkers, and Zealots once again trying to push out. This is pretty much an all-in build. We currently see more probes still being trained, but DuckloadRa realized must know how heavily invested he is into this 4-gate push. There is one Spine Crawler at that front door. That Spine Crawler now is in a decent position to try to hold back some of those Stalkers. And now that Spine Crawler getting one attack off, and now the Spine Crawler continue to just impale those Zealots. That Zealot, wow, down to perhaps like 10 hit points, 13 hit points, and able to live and fight another day. Zerglings trying to move out, unable to get really any serious damage whatsoever. Once again, 920 versus 640 economy-wise. More Stalkers still being warped in, but a lot of roaches and a lot of Zerglings. So Dimaga sitting on a very, very formidable size force of units. Compared to DuckloadRa, and I believe he also has a stronger economy. Yeah, a stronger economy by far. So Dimaga, even though he's constantly getting attacked and pressured, he doesn't really have to retreat just quite yet. Stalkers and sentries now attempting to take down the backdoor rocks, and once these rocks go down, this is going to be free reign and free access into the base of Dimaga. DuckloadRa also being careful to feint that he still has a lot of units on the front door. He doesn't want to try to early detection alarm his opponent, but Dimaga does see those rocks are now down. Zealots are now walking up, as we also have one Zergling trying to take down that one pylon there. It's not going to work. And now those Stalkers and Zealots are on the move. How much damage can be dealt? That is the key question, as these units now come back around in order to fight, deal more damage against those roaches. Are we going to get a force field on the ramp? Yeah, there we go. Beautiful force field on the ramp, splitting up that army. I believe that is enough to get another force field, yes. And that is so much energy right there. And now that one sentry can drop one more force field. There we go. Perfect timing on that force field. And this is just hurting Dimaga. Dimaga, who had the superior army, has half of his army stuck on the wrong side of the ramp and unable to join in on any fighting. We now see the roaches trying to come in from that backside, and those roaches should be able to help, but this is really just hurting DuckloadRa. Hurting Dimaga. Dimaga is able to get down that proxy pylon, so any reinforcements will require an additional probe. Roaches now moving out. The sentries still dropping force field after force field, denying any entrance on these front door units. And now another sentry does have enough energy. There you go, getting another force field down. The Stalkers and the roaches battling it out, but the Stalkers are going to win and finish off this fight here. So the Stalkers now turning around, picking off those units one at a time. 1,075 versus 1,225. Nicely done. The only problem for DuckloadRa right now is that he does not have another set of mineral patches in order to try to mine from, in order to get more and more, in order to try to get a stronger economy going. He's still I do not believe he's ever been over 1,000 minerals a minute, which is a pretty standard off of 1.5 base when you're when you're not fully saturating your middle line there. Zergling's now going to try to run up that ramp. This is going to be a problem as they're going to be able to run through. There's that force field. Nicely done. So the force field quickly stopping many of those Zerglings from being able to run in. Nothing really happening over here, even though it was pinged. And now Zerglings just sitting on the ramp, waiting to die. We do see roaches were over here on the bottom at the feet of this gateway offering acid saliva sacrifices. Zerglings now once again moving out. We can see a lot of roaches, a lot of Zerglings, but the main majority of this army is roaches. I'm surprised that we haven't seen a Void Ray yet, as Void Rays would be absolutely critical and key in trying to take down that in trying to take down that roach army. Void Rays deal a lot of damage against armored units, as I've said in the past. Back here, we now have roaches attempting to take down this set of backdoor rocks. And now we also have DuckloadRa warping in some additional units as well. This is going to help out tremendously, as now the Zealots and the Stalkers that are in the main base will be able to file out of here very, very quickly. And on top of that, able to walk out and able to attack easily, and also able to get a lot of reinforcements. The only real problem is that Dimaga is the one that opened it up. So Dimaga knows that if DuckloadRa doesn't thwart this attack, he is most likely going to lose, as he is still only sitting on one base. At some point, Dimaga needs to think, where's that third base? Where should I take it? Which is probably what he needs to do at this time. But his opponent is still sitting on one base play. I am kind of curious as to how low these minerals actually are. We can now see a probe coming back all the way home, perhaps trying to set up another proxy pylon to warp in more units. We have a couple of roaches down over here as well. Those roaches are just going to try to walk up this ramp and then get all the way home. Stalkers here, sentries, also a lot of stalkers here as well. DuckloadRa now finally establishing his expansion here. He should be able to hold off. Wow. He should be able to hold off any serious attack in just moments, but both of these players are just playing very conservatively. I wish I knew what was happening just a little bit more in terms of what's going on inside their head. Stalkers will be able to, unable to pick off any of those poor probes, as a Zealot now simply going to walk up that ramp. The Zealot, I believe, does have no upgrades at all. So no upgrades for DuckloadRa. Meanwhile, we have Dimaga with no upgrades as well, and now in come those roaches. No, roaches do not want to come in at all. Maybe they'll just go up the ramp. No, not going up the ramp, as there are Zerglings and roaches now swarming into the South Zelnaga Watchtower here on Blistering Sands. Stalkers and sentries once again falling back in full retreat, trying to figure out their strategy and how to proceed. Roach is now going to try to knock on this front door, and now getting some damage across some of those roaches already, and in come those force fields. So nicely placed force fields protecting those pylons. I believe pylons have a radius of 4, or sorry, a diameter of 4. So it doesn't really make sense to never mind. There's a lot of things that don't make sense, but right now I'm not making sense. I'm almost protecting the intensity of the flavors. Yeah. Roaches now trying to barrel through the front door. Once again, DuckloadRa is going to be able to respond in time. There are 2 pylons. Stalkers now making their way in, but that's a lot of roaches, and those roaches are very, very strong. A lot of force fields now coming into play. Many of those roaches are being forced back, and now the front ground roaches are currently burrowed. Nicely done. So burrowing all the roaches that would have normally fallen because of those force fields. They did a great job by keeping them burrowed, and now we'll be able to pop back up and deal more damage once again, and then hide in the ground once again. So back and forth. It looks like DuckloadRa is in trouble. There we go. There's the GG, and Dimaga takes game 3 in this best of 3 series. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed this 1v1 replay between Dimaga and DuckloadRa here on Blistering Sands.